It's horrifying, isn't it?
It scares me. Oh my gosh. It almost makes me want to cry, son.
Hello, Mother. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you, son?
Wonderful as always. Thank you so much.
Good.
So I've got a few videos that I wanted to share with you today.
I'm looking forward to it.
So my demographic doesn't get pulled across this kind of content very often, but these few people have, these content creators have come across my radar and have really impressed me, both as content creators and as individuals themselves. So I wanted to share some of these with you. The first one is, I'll just go ahead and read her bio, and that will kind of give everything here. So,
Okay.
I'm Ariel, a lesbian who speaks on LGBT culture, politics, and women's issues in controversial conversations. The algorithm threw one of her videos at me, and I decided to give it a shot, and I was really impressed. So I wanted to share this with you here.
All right. I'm looking forward to it.
This is Ariel Scarcella. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, but title here, I'm a lesbian woman and I'm leaving the insane progressive left.
I'm not one of them. Hi, I'm Ariel. I'm a lesbian, and I don't think gender is a social construct. I don't think cis straight white men are evil. I don't believe that genital preferences are transphobic or that there are 97 genders. I don't think that male sex offenders belong in women's prisons. I don't think it's normal for people to be praised for walking around with shirts that say kill TERFs. I don't think like these people, and I no longer want to be associated with them. I've reached peak LGBT. This is my coming out video. Never in my life have I been more canceled, tortured, tormented, harassed than by members of my own community. Never have I witnessed literal mentally ill individuals who are latching themselves onto the LGBT community without actually being LGBT for the sake of oppression points, external validation, and sympathy. Never have I seen such disrespect from younger LGBT people to the older lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender advocates who have been paving the way for us for longer than we've all been alive. Never have I seen people that use the word bigot so frequently and not see the hypocrisy and irony in themselves saying it. Some of you have noticed this change coming onto my channel within the past 2 years, as I've gotten what some people would say more conservative. And yeah, I have, haven't I? Since the queer movement right now is obsessed with all these different labels, and I am a fan of labels, I wanted to share a new label of mine with you. I'm coming out. I am officially leaving the left. When it's gotten to the point where I can no longer even list LGBT or women empowerment in my Instagram and Twitter bios without people thinking I'm part of this ridiculously woke cult, when we have rules and a pecking order of who is able to speak and for how long, even about their own bodies and experiences, when we have children drag queens and think it's okay for them to perform sexually for adults, when we praise news stories like this that make absolutely no sense and do nothing for our movement or for people understanding us, when this person is praised by LGBT organizations and deemed a speaker for lesbians, and people say that straight black men are the white men of black people, and I know what they mean. I no longer wish to be a part of this. The LGBT community has become a safe haven for the mentally unstable who are not seeking help and who also aren't, in any sense of the word, queer. We've become so obsessed with validating everybody. How did we not see this coming? This community has become so ridiculously intolerant while preaching love that for the first time in a decade, LGBT acceptance is down. Anyone who goes against the grain and thinks for themselves is immediately outcast. That's not a community, that's a hive mind cult. Once again, my name is Ariel. I'm a lesbian YouTuber. I've been making content on this platform for 10 years, and I no longer want to be associated with the ridiculously woke left. I know you guys understand where I'm coming from, and I know you'll stick around, so I'm not worried about any of this. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up and let you know what I am currently feeling. Love you.
You go, Ariel. I mean, they do go extreme. I mean, but it's when you can use a platform that you don't belong to is just wrong. Do you not agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, she hit the nail on the head with that speech right there.
By the way, she speaks very fast.
Yeah.
But she made a lot of points. Mm-hmm. So I give her kudos for that. People do jump on platforms that they shouldn't be on. And their reasoning is their own, but it's not right to me. You know,
when you can latch on to an ideology or a philosophy or a way of life or any sort of label that allows you to, I guess not necessarily allows, but encourages you to be a victim and to use that as a way to lose motivation or even just prevent yourself from trying. A lot of times I feel like a lot of times in a lot of these minority groups in the very extreme areas, I feel like they kind of latch onto it as far as just as a scapegoat from almost like a crutch or like a victimhood status to where I don't have to try because that sounds pretty bad, I know, but I think it's just kind of like a crutch almost.
I had a word in my head a second ago and I kind of lost it, but it's a lie. If you're going to get up and you're like she said, so many people are coming out to support lesbians and they're not lesbians, or, you know, they're just simply not queer, but they're going to jump on this bandwagon because somebody's going to listen to them.
Right.
I mean, I get where she's coming from, and
it's just such a tricky, slippery slope, because where do you draw the line in allowing someone to be themselves without infringing upon other people's rights to be themselves, right? Because, because it always does feel like almost one way, where you have to be tolerant of these minority groups and these very small groups of people that I don't really know many trans people, to be honest. Like I know a few people online that are trans people, but it's not
nobody
like
in person.
Nobody in person, you know, not that I have any issues with it. I don't know many people to begin with since I work from home, but it's such a small group of people, and to kind of bend our normal way of life around this incredibly small group it's asking a lot.
Well, I mean, I have an issue. Transgender people, if that is how you feel, if you are born a woman but feel like a man, or vice versa, I can't relate, and I'm sure you can't. I can't relate, so I can't offer you sympathy, but I'll offer you my support. But don't use it, like you said, as a crutch. Don't use it as an excuse to do something you shouldn't do or something you shouldn't say. But I'm transgender, it's okay? No. I do have a passion for transgender people and sports. I don't think a man that's transgendered into a woman should be allowed to swim on the women's swim team or run in women's track. You know, biologically, they're still a man. In their head, they think they're a woman. But they still have a man's body, and they shouldn't compete with women.
I agree.
And they shouldn't use a women's bathroom.
I agree with that.
And they're putting themselves in that box, and we're supposed to accommodate them in their box. You know, I don't know. I don't know if one of my grandchildren, like this video showed where there was children dressing and performing sexual dances or whatever. No. And I don't think you can tell a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old that if they believe give them time. If they believe they're a different sex, give them time. Don't jump on their bandwagon. I mean, people change. I don't know. I've heard a lot of people say that they what is the word when they change sexes and then they wish they hadn't.
Transition?
Yeah, they transitioned and oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't. I don't know. I'm not.
There's one short clip. It's somebody coming up to a trans activist, and he says, "Would you encourage a child to transition?" And she goes, "Oh yeah." And then he hold on, to Christianity, and she goes, "Oh no."
So do you think it's okay to transition children?
Yeah.
To Christianity?
No.
just disgusted at the thought.
Oh, but transitioning to the opposite sex is okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. The world is different, and we have to accept things,
different.
but it's kind of scary. Don't push your kids. And, I get because people jump on a bandwagon and get on this platform that they probably shouldn't even be on. So go, Ariel. Speak your mind.
Absolutely.
And her fear of not losing her followers, because I give her credit for that, because she has no fear. I'm speaking my mind, and I know you're still gonna love me. So I hope they all still do, Ariel.
Here's another video of hers that I thought was pretty relevant, that I thought you might get a kick out of. So we've seen a couple of other videos where, I don't know if it's necessarily Jubilee, but it's almost like a conservative versus liberal, almost like they'll have a few people on that are in both viewpoints. And oftentimes it's left-leaning in general, but you'll see it as she explains it here. But she's on that show, which is another YouTube channel, but this is basically from her point of view, from her own channel, about the experience.
Would you date a woman with a penis?
I think that personally I have a genital preference, but I
Would
would.
you suck a dick? I literally cannot believe they left that in. Now, despite the leftists in the Jubilee comment section saying that I'm a horrible person, that I'm a TERF, that I wasn't there to find a middle ground, that I was only there to debate, I am the middle ground, and have been for a very long time in my career. I was in Jubilee's most recent middle ground episode, Conservative Lesbians versus Liberal Lesbians, even though it's really leftist lesbians versus moderate lesbians, or actual liberal lesbians. They cut a lot of what we said out, but they also left in a lot of what we had to say, so of course, we have a lot to say. So let's dive in.
The LGBTQIA+ community has moved too far to the left.
Oof, girl. How many letters are there? How many? 100?
It's difficult because, I think what was once like a very loving and accepted community has pushed so far to the left that, we're seeing this massive pendulum swing that is coming back the other direction, that is going to put our entire community, unfortunately, in danger, because
It already has.
Becky is a boss. I watched this earlier before, and she is super well-spoken, very professional, very eloquent in her points, just absolute star here. So a lot of them are here. There's a lot of well-spoken individuals here, so we'll enjoy this here.
It already has, because it has gone so far to the left rather than being a good common sense middle ground.
Becky, of course, is 100% correct. The alphabet community has gone tremendously far to the left, that it has caused a ton of backlash. Most Republicans that I know do not care if somebody's gay or trans. What they do care about is forced pronouns, kids transitioning, 100+ genders that we have to validate every 5 seconds of the day, and males competing in female sports no matter how far along they are progressed into their transition. And one of the points I made a little further into this video is that most of us lesbians that identify as conservative are not the old school definition of it. We are the new school definition of conservatism, which is common sense. Lesbians for common sense, Americans for common sense. This is my new merch, by the way. If you want it, I'll have a link in the description.
Love it.
You can get it. Help support the channel. Thank you so much. New age conservatives are old school liberals or moderates. And if leftists can change what the word woman means, why can't we change what conservatism means? One thing that was getting quite annoying, and that a lot of them on that side kept bringing up, was the idea of privilege, race relations, and my friend Sasha nailed it. She had a lot to say about it.
You are able to have privilege because you don't show up like I show up. You're not a woman of color. You're not masculine. So it's easy for you to say, oh yeah, this is okay, but you're not realizing that you're forgetting me and my existence and what I might need. We're under attack.
I am an American and I have every right as everybody else does. I have nothing stopping me from getting married, owning my own home, starting my own business, nothing. Raising kids.
That's privilege.
How is that privilege?
But
How
she's
am I
also
privileged?
a person of color.
I'm a person of color.
I know, but you
So how
show
is
up
that
differently than I do.
How?
But you
Because
present.
you're mad.
Yeah, how? Again, let's go back. They're using a platform to play a victim. Understand me, see me for what I am. Like this gal here said, really, I can own a house, I can own a business, she can do anything, and anybody can do anything. But don't make yourself a victim Oh, silly.
That's what I'm saying. They're using it as a reason to not try, or almost like a.
If they fail, they have an excuse.
It's a get out of jail free card almost. It's what it is. It's like, hey, I've got this card. It's okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, I deserve this.
Yeah.
Then has no
Wait,
effect on that.
So since you
And being black.
I am also black.
The most important thing that I personally mentioned during this privilege debate, which of course was cut out, and I know this because Amber used to be a friend of mine, that my dad was a mailman, and then he died of cancer when I was 23. A lot of people don't know that, which is why I have, actual trauma. Amber's dad was a professional football player that made millions of dollars, but somehow I'm the one that's more privileged. Again, interesting how they cut that part out. Although I will give Amber credit because after I mentioned that to her, she did say, listen, I do understand that I too have privilege. It's important to call all types of privilege out. And I said, well, if everybody has every type of privilege, no matter where you go, somebody has privilege. Is it even privilege?
I would date
That is bam. That's right there. If everybody has privilege, is it even privilege?
And everybody doesn't have privilege.
Right. Exactly. If you are on one of these shows right here, dressed in this manner, speaking as well as you are privileged beyond belief comparatively to some people. So somebody to call another person in the same situation, more or less, privileged is just the pot calling the kettle black. And it's so funny because it's almost saying you have privilege, therefore I need to have privilege.
I need to have more privilege.
Or I need to have equal or more privilege, but that person that they're claiming has the privilege may or may not have that privilege. So it's just asking to be, I would like to be higher than you. I would like to be viewed as higher status than you.
Again, I don't understand why now labels are such an issue. If you're a person and you work hard and you do the right things, you're morally living, then you should get what you want. But if you're going to use the whole fact that, oh my God, I'm a lesbian, I'm not going to get the same privilege as somebody else, I don't know. It's all still foreign to me, son. I'm still just working hard and making a living, and I just don't have any excuses for what I can and cannot do. It's all up to me.
trans woman.
Would I date a trans woman?
Well, I guess. Well,
Wow.
Yeah, you're surprised, right? See, a lot of people don't know. I mean, does she have a vagina? I don't like.
That's a genital preference, not.
Disgusting to say genital preference. Please don't call it a genital preference. It's a sexual orientation. I know people in the comments of the Jubilee video are saying that I was combative, that I was annoying and very aggressive, but I will die on this hill. Do not gaslight me and the rest of monosexual people into saying that genital preference is a thing. By saying that having a genital preference, which is really sexual orientation, is not okay. Let's look at the definition of preference, shall we? Just to make sure I know what I'm talking about, which I do. In preference to something, if you choose one thing in preference to another thing, you choose it because you like it or want it more than said other thing. Okay, see, I don't have a preference for vaginas. I don't like dick. I don't like males. People that look like males, look like men. I don't like male genitalia. I've never been attracted to them. And remember, people, anybody that tells you that your sexual orientation, something that is innate, that cannot be changed. Example, calling it a genital preference is homophobic. Like, actually homophobic.
I agree. I agree. This chick's got her shit together.
I knew you'd appreciate her, yeah.
I really like her.
She cooks it up. She cooks up the facts.
She says what she means. She means what she says, and she's going to back it up. You go, girl. Like, yeah.
Matter whether they've gone through their procedures or not. If we're dating a trans woman, it shouldn't matter whether they have a vagina or a penis or anything.
So I should like convince myself that I have to be attracted to somebody's genitals if I'm not.
I personally would date a trans woman, but I don't think it's transphobic
not to want to.
Thank you, Julia, for being like one of the only leftists that made sense, at least somewhat, on this panel, in my opinion. It's probably why we stayed friends over the years.
I feel like any like non-man dating a non-man, like we've now defined as being a lesbian.
Would you date a woman with a penis?
I think that personally, I have a genital preference, but I
would you?
Currently, like I would say that I have a genital preference. I would never rule anything out. Like I've dated non-binary people. I wouldn't rule out dating anyone who's trans. I think I'm also like a very progressive and open-minded person. I wouldn't say that if I loved someone that I would rule them out for being trans.
I don't like the fact that you used open-minded, but you're allowed to say that, of course. It's your prerogative to say how you feel. But to me, open-minded comes across as me being closed-minded. And I don't think you can, I'm just saying, like, I'm not closed-minded because I have a sexual orientation that's monosexual.
Absolutely.
Thank you, appreciate that. I mean, yes. And remember, monosexual just means attracted to one sex, one type of sex traits. That can include straight people. I wanted to highlight a friend, Gilbert, who was in the Jubilee episode a few weeks ago. While he was watching this video, he sent me this voicemail, and I wanted to share it with you guys.
So proud of you. Orientation and preference are completely different, and that's 101 on understanding these issues, right? Blondes or brunettes, that is a preference. Male or female, that is orientation. In the name of progress and progression, why are we making statements like trans women are women, which quite literally
erases
part? That's the whole point of being trans and their experience.
I also just think that to assume that a trans woman is whether they have their parts or not, and if they use them in a traditional way, is a little bit gross to just.
That's not true.
Oh.
And I still believe and think this way. You can't help who you're attracted to. You can't help who you fall in love with. So you could meet somebody. I'm not a lesbian. I've never been with a woman. But if a woman walked into my life and she made my heart rate go sky high and she made me smile and she gave me warmth and comfort, I'm not going to deny that because she's a woman and I'm not a lesbian. You can't help who you fall in love with. However, as Ariel said, I don't like male genitalia. So again, I can go back to she could meet somebody and fall in love with somebody and then go to have sex with somebody and find out they have that. And she's going to have to make a decision there.
Right.
But I don't know how quickly this is something you discuss. I don't know the whole routine. But again, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Right.
It's simple.
I agree with them completely because I think the idea of genital preference over orientation is completely silly because while yes, I like the idea of female genitalia, like more than, obviously much more than a male genitalia in my mind. But as far as it being a preference, like I have no desire to be with the male. Like even if it's a man with a pussy and boobs, it's still a man.
Right.
Like that's just, I don't know. It doesn't work that way. It's, I think the guy that left the voicemail he hit the nail on the head. He was spot on.
Yeah.
Lead with that. No, I'm just saying to automatically assume, like, because you went to, are you gonna suck a dick? Are you gonna suck a dick? Often, my trans women friends and the ones that I've dated don't want to show up that way in a sexual space.
Amber is actually correct here. There are a lot of trans people, friends of mine included, that do not use or want to use their genitals because it does cause them a great discomfort to do so. It causes them dysphoria, looking down and saying, I don't want that there. Why is that person touching it? But the point I made after and that they cut out was part of my sexuality, not my sexual orientation, my sexuality, meaning how you want to be with people sexually. A big part of that for me is making my partner feel good by using their genitals. Becky actually said this better than I did.
If I'm going to date a trans man, they are a trans man, which means they were born a female, which means they have female body parts, female hormones, female chromosomes. That doesn't make them any less of a person. Now, I can be polite if I like someone, if I vibe someone. I have no issue using your preferred pronouns. I have no issue addressing you how you wish to be addressed. But I also don't have to agree that men and women are the same thing. I also don't have to agree that a man who transitions to a woman is suddenly full force woman. No, he will always be what he was. Now, if I want to use she, her, cool, I can be respectful of that. But I'm not going to ignore basic science in order to tiptoe around people's feelings.
One thing that they cut out here, I thought personally should have been left in because it was a big, like, oh shit moment, was when the non-binary person kept telling Becky how to properly gender somebody, because Becky was saying he when we were talking about Sam Smith. The non-binary person kept saying them. And Becky was saying, no, you will not tell me how to speak. You will not disrupt my freedom of speech. And the non-binary person sat there and like was in absolute shock. Like it was the first time anybody had put this person in their place. Wish they kept it in the episode, but now you know what happened for real. I also appreciate that Becky said that conservatism isn't just about the social aspects of politics. It's also about where we want our tax money to go to. How about the school libraries? What we want our kids taught in schools.
We're not just looking at social issues whenever we're talking about conservatism versus leftism or right versus left. Yeah, social issues are absolutely a part of it. But then we're also looking at, okay, how are we taxed? How is the government spending our money? How much of our tax dollars are going overseas? How are our schools being run? How are our children being taken care of? Do you have a nice library in your town that you can visit? All of that can be traced back to your political leaning. And I think it's very important to understand my sexuality has nothing to do with the way I think the government should spend our taxes.
Preach.
We do live like everybody else. There's no, I don't.
You being able to say that is privilege.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not trying to offer you. It is.
People are homophobic to me too, but it doesn't affect my life. I don't let that.
Yeah.
I did say that.
No. It's a privilege to not understand other people's
how do you know I don't
lived experience.
understand?
Because you're asking me the questions.
Well, yours is different than hers, and hers, and hers,
that's
right?
exactly what my point was.
So
right?
how can you
I
tell
can't
me
move
I'm
to Florida
privileged? How can you
feel safe?
How can you tell me I'm privileged?
I live
when
in Florida
everyone
and I feel very safe.
You show up differently than I do.
Very
I show up.
Very differently than I do.
There's more Hispanic
wanted
people
to.
in Florida than there probably are in California, actually.
What does that have to do
has
with me?
nothing
That's what you're talking about. Is that not what you're talking about? You're talking
No,
about
you
race
can
relations.
walk down the street in Florida and be cool.
Because I'm femme, because I'm not like 100% femme. Like, where's the
I think
dividing
that we
line
should
we're
take a
talking
trip
about?
to Florida and see what it's really like.
Yeah.
What you hear and what
I
you
host in
experience
Florida
is
all the time, but
okay. Then is anything
fine.
ever happened in Florida?
I live in Florida. I'm here now. I live here in the winter months. I live in South Florida, Miami, where there's probably like 8 out of 10 people are Hispanic, Cuban, some kind of Hispanic, mainly Cubans. And if you're feeling like there is a lot of homophobia here, that might be a problem with the Hispanic community, because Hispanic people are generally pretty religious and conservative. That's your people, Amber, not my people, not white people. I'm just saying. But of course, somehow I'm still the one that has privilege, even though my people are the most accepting of actual LGBT people. Everybody in the LGBT community has known this for years. Who are the LGBT kids or teens that are most likely to be homeless? Black and brown. Why? Black and brown people tend to be more religious and conservative. One last thing I wanted to comment on that I didn't get a chance to say that day was in response to the last prompt of gay men and them being more accepted generally compared to lesbians. Amber had brought up the
gay men are more accepted than lesbians? Is that what she just said?
One last thing I wanted to comment on that I didn't get a chance to say that day was in response to the last prompt of gay men and them being more accepted generally compared to lesbians. Amber had brought up the fact that lesbians, as far as nightlife is concerned, always get the off night. I made the joke, I think I said it during, and I think they left it in about Wednesday nights, because Wednesday nights is always lesbian night, because nobody goes out on Wednesday nights, right? So might as well give it to the lesbians. All the clubs are shutting down all over the country that are lesbian specific.
I often have to fight battles of them wanting to give us night.
So yeah, that's the topic on the discussion here for gay men are more socially accepted than lesbians.
I would have said that the opposite. I would have said, because I do work with a lot of men, and they in turn would probably tell me, and some of them have told me, that they would feel okay with 2 women walking down the street holding hands. But 2 men walking down the street holding hands? Oh, hell no. I mean, so, and I've always worked with more men in the business I'm in than I do women. And it does not, it appears to be the opposite of what she's saying. I think lesbians are more accepted than gay men. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay. I
Absolutely.
thought maybe I was crazy.
I mean, the thing is, it's a really tough call these days, though. Like, I feel like it's a bit easier for a lesbian to appear to not be gay than a gay man to appear to be straight. Does that make sense?
At one point, I would think. Excuse me, but I mean, I watch a lot of these home makeover shows, and they do have a lot of gay men that are living together and buying homes together, what have you. And the more I see them now in the current day, they don't look gay. Where if I would see them on the street or at a bank or wherever, I would never guess they were gay. But women, I think, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
I feel like in general, we're pretty socially accepting of both gay men and lesbians these days.
If you would
tough.
ask these people here, I would think they would probably disagree. But again, I think it goes back to too many people getting on that bandwagon to express being victimized, being not socially accepted. If something goes wrong, it's because, oh my God, I'm a lesbian, or oh my God, I'm gay. This wouldn't have happened to me. So it's sad. I think we were going in the right direction, but I think so many people have misused their platform.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, we're not judging people, but people do judge people. And I just think that everybody you get to know somebody before you make a decision whether you want them part of your life or not. If I met somebody at work and we got along really fine, and all of a sudden she told me, oh my God, my girlfriend and I'm not going to look differently at them. In fact, that happened not too long ago. My wife and I, she said,
Sure.
My wife and I knew that she looked more male than female as far as how she dressed, how her hair was cut, the way her actions were. So it didn't surprise me when she had a wife, but she was still a she.
Sure.
But I'm not going to not like somebody or not give somebody a chance or be mean and hateful because they're gay or lesbian. I mean, I never taught you that, did I?
Of course not.
Okay.
No, that's not the case. No, in fact, it's funny because I feel like that would be what a real bigot would be, right? Like somebody that feels that they are somehow superior to somebody else on the grounds of them being different or born different. Some arbitrary DNA difference makes them somehow superior or inferior. But it's such a ludicrous concept. But I think what, kind of alluding back to what you were saying, it's the qualities of the character regardless of the sexual orientation, the gender, the nationality, the ethnicity. These are all just, as far as I'm concerned, rolls of the dice of who you get in life. The cards that you were dealt. That's what these are. Like because at the end of the day, we're all given these different opportunities that we can look through our hand. And I like to think of it as like a hand. We're all dealt a hand of cards. And yeah, maybe you're dealt a pair of tens, a jack, and other people have a pair of aces. But if you play your hand right, you can win with that.
Again, it goes back to life is what you make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand some of their points, but some of their points, they are over my head. I can't relate.
And that's true. That's another big thing is because we're not gay, because we're not trans, because we're not part of this LGBT community, we can't fairly communicate it. But both of us have had friends and family that are gay or, you know, in this community. And from my experience, the people that I've met that are gay are really stellar people. They've got their stuff together,
Right.
and they're good people. But like you said, not all of them I can recognize them as gay. Like I had one friend at my last place I lived there. We had like apartment parties, and I asked him if he had a girlfriend, not even like thinking, like it didn't even dawn on me to ask if he was gay. It was just, we were talking about it with another girl there, and he's like, "Oh, I'm actually gay." I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." He's like, "No, it's okay." But that's the whole thing. Like he was cool with it. It was great.
Yeah, he wasn't offended.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be the reason why I go to the approach. Well, are you in a relationship? You know, do you have a significant other? Especially if there's any doubt on which way they lean.
Well, granted, I was a couple of drinks in, and I wasn't, you know.
But at least he wasn't offended.
No, yeah.
And they shouldn't be offended.
I mean, I was apologetic. I was not, you know, meaning to be demeaning at all. But that's kind of going back to what I was saying. Like, I feel like it's even the minority of the gay community that are overly sensitive about that. You know, like I've only been to California, where presumably a lot of this overly sensitive community resides, but I think every gay person I've ever met has honestly been an above average individual, like with how they present themselves in life, how they carry themselves in life, their success level, their education level, how well spoken they are. So it's kind of weird that there's this minority of a minority that's come about to kind of take over with this. It's taking over the LGBT community. Like she said at the beginning, you know, how many letters are there now? And it's truly muddied the water.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right.
That are like the off nights, not the popular nights, because they think us as lesbians don't make enough money to, you know, for that space for that night. And are oftentimes I'm finding that my bar percentage or whatever has to be much higher in order to have that space. So then as a person that tries to create space, I'm finding it very difficult for us to have space, especially in the community of where it's primarily white, cis, gay male.
Sure. While I agree that sucks, how is that the fault of gay men? We already know that lesbians tend to be homebodies. I've talked about this on my channel years ago. We know that lesbians tend to not spend as much money when they go out because they tend to be cheap. And are we just expected for these places to continue existing without us financially supporting them? Like, how does that make any sense? Make it make sense. Speaking of financially supporting, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I post videos every single Sunday, and of course, sometimes bonus videos like this one when some...
So that is Ariel. I knew you'd enjoy.
I like her. I like how she feels. I like how she says it. She's not out to offend anybody, and she knows her shit.
Yep.
Yeah, so she would probably be a person I would love to have a conversation with.
Agreed. I agree.
You know, yeah, to sit out and hang with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, if you're gay or lesbian, I think you can go to a bar any night of the week. You're not restricted to your... I just kind of found that a little humorous.
It may be different for them because they're in big cities. You know, she said she's in Florida, so it may be a little bit different. Yeah. So.
But I mean, everybody should have a special night, I guess. But everybody doesn't have a special night. I kind of get offended because when is single white night? You know, single white lady night. I mean, I don't get one of those.
True.
So,
true.
Anyway.
So one more from her, actually. This is where we're going to get into some heavy stuff here. So she's going to lead us off here.
This trans person is pleading guilty to sexually abusing a baby when changing its diaper. And nope, not going to prison. This trans person is not going to prison either. Welcome to trans privilege. This time, Family Guy has predicted the future, not The Simpsons.
Excuse me, ma'am. No porn at the bar.
Oh, it's okay. I'm transgender.
Oh, I had no idea. Do whatever you want all the time.
There are all types of privilege, right? Even though we are told that white privilege and white supremacy are the main issues affecting Americans in today's world, which is obviously not true. I mean, everybody knows black privilege is the real privilege. I mean, y'all be looking like 20 years younger than your actual age. 50-year-olds looking like they're 30. Something ain't right. But now we're at a point in time where trans privilege is a very real thing, and it's a problem. Committing sexual assault and getting off scot-free. Yes, this is very true, and it is currently happening. This person was currently working at a daycare caring for infants. The colleague of this person that committed the sexual assault then observed them performing a circular motion while rubbing the infant's genitalia and said that was her clit area, and she likes it. It just made her day. To even just see someone else doing that, I don't even know what I would do. I think I would freeze and then probably like punch the shit out of them. At the very end of last month,
I would too. And she got no punishment for that. She felt like she made a baby's day by rubbing her female parts.
It's horrifying, isn't it?
It scares me.
There's a reason that they call this clown world.
It almost makes me want to cry, son.
It's sad and horrifying.
January 29th, 2024, CHlDers, who was the person that committed the sexual assault, struck an agreement with the prosecutors which included entering a guilty plea in exchange for his charge of first-degree sexual abuse of a victim under 12 to be amended to sexual misconduct, which is considered a Class A misdemeanor. The remaining abuse charges were also dropped. This person, who started identifying as a woman 7 years ago, was represented by a prominent trans lawyer activist. Who would have thought? The jokes write itself sometimes, guys. CHlDers had been sentenced to 12 months in prison, but the judge postponed the sentence in favor of a 6-month conditional discharge. In addition to avoiding incarceration, the defendant may be able to clear his criminal record if he adheres to the conditions of the conditional discharge. So basically, all this person has to do is listen to what the judge said. Don't do that again. A little slap on the wrist, bitch. You're scot-free. You're good, even though you touched a baby's, you know. So this person's bond was originally set at $100,000. The court reduced it to $5,000. And as we said before, downgraded his felony sexual abuse charge of a minor to a misdemeanor and dropping all other abuse charges. What? No. And if you've been following me here on this channel for a while now, I've covered stories like this in videos before. And yes, it keeps happening. Just last year in Canada, a man who raped an infant was quietly moved to prison in a mother-baby unit after claiming that they were transgender. You cannot fucking make this up. In Australia, transgender TikToker, this was very recently, this story just came out I think last week. Transgender TikToker pleads guilty to child sexual abuse charges. Despite what the queer activists will tell you, this is very real and this is happening. Redux, an old school feminist website, has been covering these stories for the past few years now. Highly recommend giving them a follow on X. Here's another story out of Canada. Study finds nearly 45% of trans women inmates, and we say trans women, but we don't know if they're actually 5%.
Hold on here. 45% of trans women inmates convicted of sex crimes. So half of the men that feel like women who have crimes against committed
that are in jail.
So this is breaking my brain here. Hold on. So the men that commit crimes against these women go to jail full of additional women. Half of them are in there because they did crimes to women.
Now, well, I mean, like I've heard people say, becoming trans gives you the right to hang with more women and use a women's bathroom, you know, and they could just say they're trans. They don't have to be trans. They have I'm trans woman, but I'm going to keep my penis and I'm going to keep all my hormone levels the same but I'm going to be like a woman so I can hang with women, so I can go in a bathroom or shower in a gym, Yeah, it's
backwards.
It breaks my heart, actually. It really breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that I have grandkids that I have to live with this as they get older.
Trans women inmates, and we say trans women, but we don't know if they're actually trans women or if they're trans women. You know what I mean? People taking advantage of the trans title. We don't know. Have been convicted of sex crimes. Just something tells me that those probably are not actual trans women. But you know, I mean, a few of them could be. But obviously, my gut feeling tells me that the majority of these people are just sex-crazed, disgusting males claiming a trans identity to have trans privilege. The study...
I mean, that's it. That's trans privilege. What else is that?
The study, entitled Gender Diverse Offenders with History of Sexual Offending, reveals a troubling pattern violence among convicted. And here I was worried about trans women competing in women's sports, but now you got them with a high rate of sexual patterns. Yeah, I didn't see this coming. Thanks, son.
Entitled Gender Diverse Offenders with a History of Sexual Offending, reveals a troubling pattern of violence among the convicted. This study was 3 years ago, from 2017 to 2020, and it had 99 gender diverse inmates taking part in this study. Of the 99 inmate sample group, 44% of the trans women convicts are sex offenders. Here's another story. Father who sexually abused 7-year-old daughter for trans porn company, now recorded as female offender by the New Jersey Department of Criminality. Obviously, absolutely fucking disgusting. I can't even call them humans. Obviously, they're humans, but they're fucking animals. So many of these animals are clearly taking advantage of the system.
There's the issue. It's the system. They should not be allowed to do that. Why is that an option?
It's scary.
Why is that a thing?
It's pathetic. Why? I don't know how the government sees things. I mean, it's like pick and choose a law and pick and choose how you're going to handle it. It has tears in my eyes. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And getting away with it. Some of them don't even care and are so obviously out in the open about the fact that they're taking advantage of this stupid system that exists right now.
It was April of 2022 when Rose says jail guards brought a transgender woman into a female dorm. According to DOC policy, as much as possible, the department seeks to accommodate an individual's desired housing placement in accordance with their gender identity. But Rose says this inmate immediately showed their gender identity was a sham. Investigative records from Rikers show Rose and other female inmates immediately believed the new inmate was clearly male who infiltrated when they are clearly not transgender, that the prisoner stated openly and publicly that he was not gay nor trans, and that he's a whole man that likes women.
I mean, trans privilege. What else could you categorize this to be? Because the idiots running the government, running the cities, running the states, running the prison system don't want to be called transphobic. They are allowing this kind of shit to continue. And do you remember one of the women who was raped in a prison just last year? She is now suing the prison complex, and she should.
On April 6th, 2022, Rose Doe complained the supposedly trans inmate followed her into the bathroom and groped her. That same evening, the acting warden of the jail wrote this email saying, "I feel that individual is not a suitable fit for the female dorm." But the new detainee was allowed to stay, and early the next morning, Rose says the prisoner raped her.
Just grabs me, put me behind, and take my pants off. He raped me.
Here's another one. Daily Mail is like a leftist organization, and they are calling this trans woman predator her. Transgender charity shop worker who is transitioning into a woman exposed her penis to two 11-year-old girls from the window of her home. Oh, I said I wasn't gonna say her, but I said her. Fuck you, you're not a her. The 56-year-old who says that she is a naturist who enjoys being naked in her own home. I hate saying her because it's not a her. Is accused of manipulating her genitals in full view of the girls 2 days in a row. There is a major difference between being in your own home, feeling the need to walk around naked in your own home, existing in your own space. I believe that that is possible, like should be okay. Like I do it in my home. I'm painting the walls. I don't want to get paint on my clothing. I paint naked, right? But I have my windows closed. I don't want anybody seeing me. I specifically don't make sure that I purposefully stand in front of the window knowing
Naked.
100%. There's no other way but that purposeful. And that is intentionally you're
Perverted.
damaging and traumatizing youth. Like how that there's something off in the brain at that. There's a sickness in there. This is a sickness.
It's a mental capacity.
Where they want to traumatize multiple young lives, and they clearly get a kick out of it, or some reason for it.
But I'm transitioning to a woman. I don't have this thought. No.
And they claim to be a naturist. That was the word it said?
Yes, in his own home. You don't play with yourself, whether you're a man or a woman, or trying to go either way in front of people. Period. You don't do it.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting with somebody with. I don't want to say evil, because it may just truly be like a mental tweak that is something is off, and they genuinely, maybe they don't realize what they're doing is clearly off, like psychotic. It's just
sad and scary.
It's a sickness. It's some sort of sickness.
Some kind of illness.
Mm-hmm.
that these same two girls come home from school every day around the same time and are walking right past my window as I masturbate in front of the window staring at these two young girls. Like, that's a big, not even a big stretch. You can't even compare the two. The fact that these people in court are calling this person she, her, again, trans privilege. Bills are now being presented to courts that would allow people to change their name and gender that are convicted felons. It is called Tiara's Law, named after this black trans woman who was a sex worker.
Kelly is a trans woman living in Colorado. She's a performer. She's also a convicted felon.
So in Florida, when you have three of a similar charge, whether they're misdemeanor, if they're misdemeanors and they're three of the similar charge, they become a felony charge. So that's where my felony came from, was from being a sex worker.
Listen, I understand in some cases where somebody might have broken the law, but they didn't physically harm anybody. They didn't steal anything. They didn't commit sexual assault, sexual abuse, nothing of that sort. They jaywalked, and now they want to legally change their name and gender. They should be able to do so. But what about the people we previously spoke about in this video, huh? No, I don't think so. Very different.
This is Tiara's Law.
Democratic State Representative Lorena Garcia introduced HB 1071. It clarifies in state law that if someone has a felony and they're also trans, they can get their name changed if the court allows it.
If people get their name changed, whether they're trans or not, their criminal record still is attached to their social security number, to who they are, to their whatever identifying factors they have. It's just making a law that exists accessible to everybody.
Here's the thing, I feel like it's still very easy to get around town without people having to ask for your social, right? Like, that's not a thing. It's a thing when you're applying for a job, but that's the only time, really. Nobody else asks that, or if you're applying for like a mortgage. Criminals will do anything to erase their past history. But no, cis people are the problem. What? How?
Cisgender privilege means not having to consider being exhausted physically and emotionally from constantly having to correct people about your gender, about your pronouns, about your name when you're out in the world. This is absolutely exhausting. And if I am just female and a woman, I never have to consider or even think about how freaking exhausted my trans and non-binary counterparts might be in the world.
See, this
That is twisted. That is twisted. The concept of you wanting to have people around you confined to some arbitrary request of behavior and feel a sense of exhaustion when they don't oblige your crazy request. That is wild. And then you're so privileged because you don't have to put up with dealing with your inability to oblige my request. It's just so backwards. It's so bad. I imagine the people in that person's office are exhausted of having to put up with that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. What was it again? Like, oh, okay, XYZ. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's a worry that we shouldn't have, and I'm sorry. I'm just finding this hard to relate.
It is because I've talked to some gay friends about this, in fact, and a lot of them agree, like Ariel here. She's just very aware of the craziness that is taken to the extreme here, and it's really hard for me to relate that this is really a thing.
Exactly, that's what I mean. I can't. I can't.
How is this a thing? It's so backwards.
Oh.
It's unreal to me that this is actually a thing.
This is the point in the video where I usually make fun of people like this, but the truth is, I'm just gonna let these people speak for themselves. What do you have to say for yourselves? Enlighten us. Honestly, I think I saved the most insane story for last. ACLU, and this is over a year old, but still, it's important. ACLU slams Florida for not providing gender-affirming care for men who raped and murdered women to harvest their hormones. Really bad? You're talking about cis privilege? Because people misgender you? This meme is really about male athletes in sports, but it could be used for male predators as well. It's a perfect meme for like pretty much any trans situation. By the way, I'm gonna sum this video up in saying this one thing. There is a study about the frequency of personality disorders in trans patients. Let's just leave it here. One thing I will say is there is not a distinction in the study between people claiming a trans identity versus actual transsexual people. But either way, it's worrisome. The top 3 personality disorders in trans patients are narcissistic personality disorder. Who would have thought? We filmed tons of videos on this channel about that already. Obsessive compulsive, that makes sense, I could see that. And masochistic sadistic. I mean, it all makes sense and it's all crazy. If you guys enjoyed this video, please.
Wow. So that's Ariel. She's got some great content.
It just makes me sad that there's that many sick people out there. It just worries me.
You can't even make it up. That's why it's so wild. Like, you don't even have to watch the movies to hear crazy stuff. Just look at the news and you're like, wow.
It's probably I don't watch the news.
That's unreal. This can't be happening. Yeah. All right. So that's Ariel. Seems to be a great content creator from what I've seen. I knew you'd dig her vibe. So, and then while we're on the theme of a gay content creator, I found one on this other side of the gender sphere here. We got Brad Palumbo. I wanted to show. I loved the title of this video. This is what caught it for me here. Normal gay reacts to creepy woke TikToks, claiming himself to be a normal gay, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
Like the original gay.
Right.
I'm gay. I'm a guy. I prefer to be with a man.
These are my idea of gay people, like people that I could actually hang out with and actually have a conversation with, and it's typically better than with straight people a lot of the times. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like normal gay people, on average, are better conversationalists. Maybe they just, I don't know. Maybe it's just the gay people I've encountered in my life. But I just found it interesting that, normal gay reacts to creepy woke.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, so this is here, Brad Palumbo. And as always, all the links can be found down below.
Yes, genital preferences are always transphobic. You're welcome. No, but seriously, deciding that you don't want to be intimate with someone because of the genitals they have is transphobic, particularly like if you think about, in this case, this means that this person is not open to dating trans women, which invalidates their womanhood. Not only that, it makes assumptions about the way that trans people are going to want to use those genitals. The idea that trans people use the body parts that they have in the same way that cis people with those same body parts do is transphobic. Say it with me. Genital preferences are always transphobic.
Say it with me. You're homophobic, babe. Y'all remember the whole "it's okay to be gay" thing? Yeah, apparently it's not okay to be gay anymore. Apparently now being gay makes you transphobic. This is crazy and it makes no sense, but it's like the horseshoe theory, right? When you go so far to one extreme, you end up back at the other. What they're saying is not materially different from the people that are suggesting that gay people should just choose to be straight. Newsflash. Cupcake. Biological sex is what determines sexual attraction, not gender identity, not your inner sense of self, not pronouns, but your physical, biological sex and the many manifestations of it, including your genitals. It's not okay for you to tell somebody that they're bigoted or hateful because of the way they are, who they're attracted to. It's not a choice, and it's not up to you. It's insane that I even have to tell an LGBT activist that it's not okay to call gay people bigots for not being attracted to female genitalia. Am I being punked? Like, is Ashton Kutcher gonna come? The Gen Z won't even get this reference.
He's great, right?
Yeah.
He's great. But he's also speaking facts too. 100% speaking facts, and he's just as lost as us too.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
Whoa, where are we? Yeah.
Is Ashton Kutcher about to come out with the cameras and say, "I'm being punked"? Because I don't know what the heck is going on in the alphabet community these days, but they have lost their minds. There's something predatory, too, about the way these people are basically trying to say you have to be attracted to them or you're a bigot and you should be canceled. Like, it's okay for people to not be attracted to you. I don't know why you feel entitled to other people's sexuality, but that's something you need to resolve within yourself, because it's not going to change on our end. I can guarantee you that. When the Christian conservatives used to say pray the gay away or choose God instead of your sins or whatever, that didn't work. And it won't work now when you're doing it just dressed up in woke claptrap and TikTok nonsense. Hey guys, what if I told you you could immunize yourself to media bias and support my content all at the same time? I want to introduce you to Ground News. Ground News is my studio.
Everything I say about gender is influenced by my whiteness, which is obvious, but there's an interesting second part to this. The rejections of gender and gender roles that I create and embody will still come from my whiteness, those acceptable to my constructions of self as a white person. I will likely uphold and encourage white beauty standards and see and more immediately accept other white rejections of gender. Essentially, even the most critical analysis of gender I have will still be white, and white gender rejection can and does uphold whiteness and white supremacy. Queer appropriation of African American vernacular English is one example of this, as is mainstream exclusion of fashion excellence in Black representations of masculinity.
Number one, I don't even want to listen to him anymore because, like, he's talking in circles, and it's why is he saying what he's saying and doesn't even make sense? I'm like, oh my.
You know what it makes me think is they just like to hear themselves talk.
Yeah, I hope that's it. I hope they don't really believe everything they say.
Well, and it's just a deadly combination, because I don't think that they know really what they're saying. It's almost like they want to appear as if they're intelligent, so they're just kind of spewing out a bunch of word salad and kind of just hoping that it kind of aligns.
Like somebody else crazy gets me?
Yeah.
Because somebody else crazy has to get him. Nobody, you or I, are not getting anything.
I'm not picking up anything, no.
Okay.
While celebrating white men for having basic hygiene as if they're revolutionaries. Of course, that's not to say we can't attempt to take in other viewpoints, but it's still going to be a fundamentally white perspective. Even this is a white perspective. It's literally the only one I can give you. So if you want to learn how other people construct and deconstruct gender, you need to learn it from someone who doesn't look like me. Because
the did he just say? I've listened to that several times now, and I still can't decipher what at least 50% of that is supposed to mean. It's like, oh, what are those called? The things where you plug in the random words. The games we used to play as kids, like insert an adjective, insert a noun, whatever, and you don't know what the prompt is, so you insert your adjectives and your nouns, and then it doesn't make any sense, and that's the fun of the game.
Good point there.
It's like that's what these people do when they make their TikTok videos.
I mean, that's pretty much it. But amazingly, they spew it out pretty coherently and quickly, and it's like they're really good at just talking bullshit, just speaking nothing. Like,
none of it. Like he said, 50%. I mean, exactly. People are going to take you for a white man because you're a white man. I don't care how you're dressed. When I look at you, I don't know what your sexual preference is, but you're still a white man.
He's talking about how he can't help but have a white perspective because, and he's got. Well, yeah, okay. You were literally just kind of saying the same thing over and over again. I don't. That was wild.
Yeah,
that's wild.
I think he was high on something.
The long and the short of it, though, is this guy's basically saying that even within the trans activist community, he can only give you a white perspective on gender because he's a white person, and that affects his entire worldview and opinions. And this is a good example, I think, of how intersectionality and the extreme woke worldview actually becomes really reductive and tokenistic and toxic in its own right. I don't know about y'all, but for me at least, I don't actually believe that the pigment of your skin taints your perspective and determines your worldview, and that you are incapable of having a worldview independent.
I don't think it's the pigment of your skin. It's your environment and the situation that you were raised in that determines your worldview. Would you agree?
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of things, but I mean, it's where you grew up and how you grew up. And I mean, as I've always said, you're a product of your environment. I mean, so if you're a white person living in a black neighborhood, you're still, no matter what, gonna have that white perspective. But again, he's a white man. How else are people supposed to look at him? No matter what he's dressed in, he still physically looks like a white man.
You know what? The whole thing about it is the people with anything but black shirts will have a different viewpoint of life. And because I'm wearing a black shirt right now, I can only have the viewpoint from somebody that has a black shirt on currently. So because I'm wearing this current black shirt, I have a black shirt perspective. But only because I have a black shirt do I have this perspective of wearing a black shirt. So,
did you know that dude on that video? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Of your race. That's what these people are saying. And they are acting like that's progressive? This whole genre of commentary on TikTok, talking about how I'm super woke and intersectional, but I acknowledge how I'm bigoted and I'm inherently flawed in my own ways. And it reminds me of, during the Black Death in Europe, the Great Plague, they had these people that would go around and whip themselves in public, hoping to please the gods so that they would be spared. They were called the flagellants. They would go around and they would whip themselves and blood would splatter. And they would publicly whip themselves to basically beg God, we're suffering, we're acknowledging our pain, please don't strike us down. And I think that's what these people are doing. I think they've seen how insane the cancel culture and the mobbing and the calling everything bigoted and tarring people for one wrong opinion or word has got.
It's guilt. It's guilt of some kind, right? Like why else would somebody do that to prevent themselves getting smited from God if they weren't afraid of getting smited by God?
Yeah, good point. Good point. It's a story I've never heard of, but yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, why would you punish yourself to prove a point if you're not feeling you need to be punished?
Wow. Holy cow. I didn't know about this situation.
I didn't either.
Him framing it from this point of view kind of puts it in that perspective for me, where it's they feel bad for something they internally, and maybe they do genuinely feel bad for the actions that their ancestors did take, and they do have this guilt, but taking on that guilt is it's dangerous.
It's a heavy burden.
Yeah, that's an unnecessary heavy burden that is only gonna leave scars on your back, apparently. Like,
oh, life
on their own side.
Did you have something?
No.
And they're so afraid that it's going to come for them next that they're just preemptively confessing to all this racism and problematic stuff that probably doesn't actually exist. But here's the thing for folks like this. You think it's going to save you if you are one of the good ones and you acknowledge how inherently flawed you are as a white person. It's not going to save you, babe. It's not. They'll turn on you eventually because that's what they do. And no amount of insane woke word salad TikToks is going to save you from that fate. So you might as well not embrace these radical and reductive and extreme views on race. Up next, even this woke TikToker is getting sick of their own community.
I'm debating whether or not I hate fake advocates or bigots more. And they're both equally annoying on TikTok. I've like lost all patience today. It's like crazy because on one hand I have people that are like, being gay is wrong, you're a horrible person, stay away from children. And those people are so annoying. And then on the other hand, I have people that are like, I identify as a cauliflower and you can't say Gypsy Rose's real name. And I'm like, oh, there is an in-between. Like, we could be respectful of pronouns and not be homophobic and also not use that word as a slur, but then understand it's actually somebody's name that dates back 4,000 years. Like, people just follow trends. Trends to either hate gays or love gays. Hate a country, love a country. Hate a group of people, love a group of people. And now it's politically correct is just random. And then, since being politically correct is so random now, we have other groups of people that just say the most absurd, toxic things. They're like, oh my god, well, black people are not smart and gay is wrong. And then you're like, oh my god, you can't say that. But then they come back and they're like, well, everything politically correct doesn't make sense. They're not wrong, but they're also wrong. Like everyone is wrong. I'm losing it tonight, guys. I hope this helps though.
So I followed this person on TikTok, Desmond, and they're actually like pretty darn liberal, but even they can't keep up with the political correct stuff. And I found it hilarious when they're like, political correctness is just random now. And
I use the word arbitrary, but random fits it pretty well too, because a lot of it does feel just random, like legit arbitrary. Like it could be just some random. I mean, they make up. They make it up. Yeah. They make it up as they go.
If it works. Let's try this. See if it works. Okay.
Unreal.
Yeah, crazy shit.
Really true. I mean, nobody can keep up, and they're constantly inventing new fake outrages and new oppressions to be upset about, and it really is exhausting. And I actually agree with Desmond that we are seeing, at least online, I don't know about so much in person or in real life, but online, we are seeing some extreme far-right pockets of actual homophobia, actual transphobia, actual racism really start to bubble up and rear their ugly head. I mean, you can go to my X account and look at some of the replies that I get, but it's all over the place. And it is not most people. I still don't believe it's most people. It's not even most people on these platforms, but it's a specific toxic online segment.
No, it's just the toxic minority. Just the very, very toxic minority that is at all ends of the spectrum. They are placed, and it's ignorance. At the end of the day, it's just ignorance, which is something that I think the issue is a lot of people want to somehow remove the ignorance from people, but you can't.
You can't fix stupid, as they say.
Yeah. All you can do is brace for impact.
And again, it goes back to the simple fact my daddy used to say, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the internet that'd never happen. Just a thought.
And they really are coming back in force, and that's terrible. Actual racism and actual bigotry is a horrible thing. And I do fault those people for going down that path, but I also think what Desmond is saying here is actually an important piece of the puzzle, that for so long, progressives and people on the left called everything they didn't like racist, called everything they didn't like sexist, homophobic, transphobic, blah, 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 blah. They threw these terms around like candy on Halloween. And then, what do you know? The boy who cried wolf so many times that people stopped coming. And now we have some actual bigotry resurfacing in places. And we have lost the vocabulary and the willpower to call it out and to be immune from it and to recognize it for what it is. Because for so many years, these people called every little thing under the sun some form of problematic bigotry. Well, now we're reaping the dividends of that, and I don't think it's pretty, and I don't think it's something any of us should want to see continue. Up next, this TikToker thinks you should make being gay your whole personality.
I hate when people say, I don't care if you're gay as long as you don't make it your whole personality. I cannot relate. If you're gay and you're not making it your whole personality, get with the program. Like, join us. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. My least favorite part of being gay is being attracted to men. And I don't even mean that in like a catchy, like Fox News headline type of way. I mean it, like, it's bad out here. And like, if being gay was only when I had sex with men, I'd be gay like twice a year. You know, like, I'm not really committed to that whole bit. I was born to tip a drag queen $1. Like, when I tip a drag queen $1, transcendental meditation. Like, when I hear a woman like belt a high note, that is what I was made for. That's what we're here for.
So this guy, he made me laugh
Was
a
he
couple
drunk?
times because some of the stuff he said was funny. Like,
Yeah.
I only do that twice a year. I'm only gay twice a year. But no, I do take issue with this. Like, babe, being gay is not a personality, so you really have to have something more than that to offer, or you will be lacking in the personality department. And I do find it really unfortunate when these woke types, they often end up accidentally trafficking in stereotypes. Like, it's not, in fact, true that gay people are all sassy and effeminate and feminine and love musical theater or whatever. And, you know, for the gay people that are like that, that's totally fine. I don't judge that or look down at that at all. There's also a lot of gay people who are just same-sex attracted, but like sports or are masculine in a traditional sense or in whatever. It's like, it doesn't actually have anything to do with those things. Now, are those things sometimes more common in gay people? I think yes. And I think it's kind of complicated why that might be, but it's not always the case. There's nothing inherently about those things that makes a person have to be gay. There are even some heterosexual people who are stereotypically gay but aren't actually gay. And I just don't know why these people have gone so far down the woke mind virus that they've started trafficking and perpetuating stereotypes. It's like, how do you go so far that you end up in this reductive and old-fashioned view of what it means to be gay or straight or a man or a woman? Like, no, liking makeup doesn't make you really a woman. Being sassy doesn't mean that you're gay. None of these things are actually true or dispositive in any way. And I don't know why people who call themselves progressives continue to traffic in them. And again, if being gay is all you've got to offer in your personality, you might want to work on that.
Yes. Oh, the dude sounded drunk though. But yeah, it's amazing because I know some people that if you were to meet them on the street or meet them having lunch or dinner with me, you would definitely think they were gay, and they are not gay. You know, I mean, just because you like to shop or dress nice doesn't make you gay.
Right.
So yeah, too many people. Again, it goes back to getting on a platform that was created for good reasons, and what's the word? Distorting it, totally distorting what they're supposed to be being positive about. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's so wild because they preach about inclusivity, except they're not inclusive to the majority or normal gays, quote unquote. Like it feels like inclusive to anybody that agrees with them and not truly inclusive. It's just
it works when it works for you. You know, it is kind of, again, it's people getting on platforms and using things to their benefit, like going into a women's prison because you're a man and you like women. Oh, but I'm a transgender. And they allow it to happen. That's disgusting. To get no sentence for rubbing a baby's genitalia because, oh my God, I'm transgender. It just, oh.
Thank goodness it's the minority.
Well, thank God. Because, I don't know, it's like that old joke is you used to have to tell your kids about the birds and the bees, and now you got to tell them about, you know, the birds with stingers, or the bees with stingers, the bees without stingers, and the birds that fly and the birds that don't fly, and we'll have to find that one day, because it unfortunately is simply put, but so true. But again, we're talking about people using a platform to their benefit, to help their situation. And it's just not right.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I think these people need help. They need help. I feel like a lot of them just don't have the mental capability or the fortitude, or just not capable of handling society efficiently or effectively, and expecting the world to dance around them and
make exceptions.
Yeah, and it doesn't it's not going to work out well for them, or the world's going to go to shit trying to coddle around this incredibly small minority that, again, I have never met a trans person.
I haven't. I mean, not that I'm aware of.
True. But that kind of goes to the point, too, of making it their whole identity. If I did meet a trans person, they didn't let me know, and I didn't notice it. So
I do know way back years ago when a man friend of mine, would always go to this produce market like once or twice a week. And there was this gal that worked there, and they got to be very friendly with each other and talk to each other and kind of flirt with each other. And so one Friday night, he said, "Hey, you want to come to my house?" And she said yes, and he got her home and find out he was a she. And for months, he didn't even realize it, and he freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
Freaked out. Understandably so.
Of course.
I mean, but
yeah.
I guess if you're, like you said, do you make that your whole identity? I don't know. I mean, I at the time thought, wouldn't you know? But obviously he did not know.
Right, but it depends on the intentions. Like if it's a professional business relationship, then there's no need for there to be a knowledge.
Yes.
But if there's intentions to get romantic or physical, even in the future, then I think it's fair to let them know early on, hey, I may or may not be what you expect, but this is what I am and what I have. True.
And that is, again, though, I've not ever met a transgender person.
Right. That had romantic intentions, at least, right? Fair enough,
Oh, I do think there's a lot of people that need help. And it goes, we've discussed this before. If you have thoughts in your head that shouldn't be there, or if you really are confused, seek help.
Right, but the issue here, Mom, is this sickness is disguised as a superiority complex because they think they know what's up, and they think that we're the crazy ones. We're the people. We're the privileged ones. We're the bigots. Right? That's what they say. And but the thing is, I think at the end of the day, I think even though these people, I do believe, and again, this is an opinion, take it for what it's worth, I think these people have some sort of mental sickness of some kind, but this is so deeply ingrained in the society, this sickness, that it's beyond just a people thing. It's somehow integrated itself into the system. This is deliberate. This is deliberate. There is no way on earth that this is happening other than there are systems being put into place to encourage and allow it. 100%. Otherwise, there is no other way that this should be as prevalent as it is, because we're all just looking at each other saying, what the hell is going on? What's going on? Our president can't form a coherent sentence. What is going on?
Oh, were we talking about that?
Oh my gosh.
That's a whole other topic.
I know.
Come back. Oh, and it is scary, and it makes me concerned that, as you said right now, no children, and when you get to that point where you decide you want children, what is our world going to be like? So just protect them, son. Don't give them the internet.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep. It's a crazy world.
Oh, but you know what? I think kind of circling it all up with these people that are, and to be fair, this is not to say that we on this end or us individuals are perfect or faultless or somehow above, holier than thou kind of thing, because that's far from the truth.
Never.
Everybody has their own mistakes and faults. But I think the thing that needs to come from all this is the people that do have this sickness, that it's disguised as some I don't know, it's
privilege,
whatever it is, this mind virus, as I think he put it, it needs to be treated as these people need your help. Like, don't demonize them, don't dehuman them, don't devalue them as people, because they don't know any better. They don't know any better. That is at the end of the day, they're still people, and they're struggling, and they are doing what they think is best. Most of them, or right. Most of them are. I don't think that they're all inherently evil. Yes, there are extremists on all ends that are pretty close to inherently evil, but a lot of them are just, they're just lost, and they're latching on to any form of acceptance that they can get. And unfortunately, that LGBT plus, it's accepting of every form of mental issue you can have. If you want to be a pony one day and flying pumpernickel bread the next day, whatever you want, it's allowed. So their sickness is allowed to flourish, as sad as that is. And
again, don't demonize them.
Let's
persuade them to get help.
Yeah, I hope that there is a form of help in society, unfortunately. I hope that there is a real form of help, because it does feel like this war, there's an agenda being placed to divide and conquer. And if you are dehumanizing the opposite end of whatever it is, you are playing into their agenda. So don't do that. Everybody's a person. So even if they're lost internally, don't you can write them off and don't do anything with them. Avoid them. That's what I would suggest. But don't become part of the problem, and don't play into their agenda to pit you against each other.
Agree. We're all human. Some of us are just on different levels.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on these content creators?
No, but this was an enlightening night, and yeah, I thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, son.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Feel free to like and subscribe if you like the content. This has been a pretty good one. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Mom. Thank you for watching. See you guys all next time.
Peace out.